I'd like to know what you think as well about government involvement in the media, especially like news media, because we're hearing that New Zealand Post is going to be sized down, and they're basically being told you have to be able to wash your face. You got to be. It's got to pay for itself. Whereas I kind of feel like Post is a service. Post is not something that should be run at a profit. It's a service to the public, like libraries. Libraries don't get run at a profit. They're a service to the public. On some level, it feels like news should be that as well. How do you feel about that when it comes to being a commercial entity versus a government entity, particularly when we're talking about delivery of news?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I know when News Hub shut down, that was where a lot of concern came in, because obviously we'd had TVNZ, which is government funded, and then News Hub was kind of that independent source, and there was that concern, I guess, initially around, obviously now we've still got that version of these 6 o'clock understaffed, but where that it sort of, whether or not we were going to keep losing these media companies that were not backed by the government, and what that meant essentially. If we only had the 6 o'clock One News bulletin running, what does that really mean? There's only one option for viewers, and that is a government funded option, not an independent. And everyone's got different views, I guess, on what they think around that and what they prefer to watch and consume. But I do think it's important to still have both aspects of that.
Yeah, I do. Because I look to places like the BBC and see a world leading model as to how to deliver information through it's funded by their whatever their fee is, their licensing fee. So,
but they're under the gun as well. That campaign of like, oh, you shouldn't pay a licensing fee. What good is it, and all of that sort of thing. And they haven't seen that yet. I think the for-profit. I mean, you're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can't have full for-profit news. It clearly doesn't work in a country as small as us. People don't want to put their money,
right?
Yeah. You just can't spread it out, and so then you have the government getting involved, and then you have to be really, really careful that editorial objectivity stays in the play, and that they're free and independent and can criticize the media, the government that is paying them, or you end up with a really splintered microcosm of news. Like think of if the only way that people could get news was out of small groups like us just feeding on what's left of the media. As good as we are, and as entertaining as we are, and as much as our listeners should never look for other sources of news, just hear only us all the time, we don't have the same standards that a proper newsroom has.
Ours are better.
They're better. Ours is the new model. We are the future, etc. Everyone's picking up what I'm putting down. But it's you're right. Things just need to stabilize, and I don't think anybody's really worked out how to crack the New Zealand media landscape.
And as you said, the size thing's massive. People tend to forget that we're not a huge country, and it is really difficult and hard to be sustainable in a news media environment in a small country like New Zealand. And I think that actually plays quite a big role in it too.
And the other problem, of course, with for-profit news is they have to have the eyeballs. It's a commercial entity, and then what can happen is that can influence the news that they put out there. They want to put out populist news because they want the most eyeballs on it. And then are you getting the important stories of the day or not? I noticed today, actually, I got sucked in by the Herald, who I have a subscription to, so I can say this. It was a picture of a massive section of land. It had like 10 houses down each side of it and 5 across the back, and it was like, family finally sells it. And I'm like, wow, I wonder where that is. At West Auckland? What is it? Clicked on it. It's a fucking house in Adelaide. It's a house in Adelaide that they've held for 60 years in this family, and they've just sold it for $6 million. That's interesting, but they got me because I was thinking about, New Zealand housing prices and that kind of stuff. So what do you think about that? There is a danger that for-profit news has to put out the most salacious, the most popular news to get the eyeballs, to pay the advertising, to pay the staff.
100%. Yep. No, I can totally relate to that in the sense that it's sort of for a long time in the newsroom felt like it was kind of that balance between especially when you've got sort of a shrinking newsroom where you don't have a huge amount of journos now as well to work with. Someone pitches a story idea that's a great story, but we know it's not going to get a huge amount of eyeballs. And sometimes it does have to be sort of put in the side pile for a while because we've got these other things that are a bit more salacious, as you say, or a bit more clickable news headlines that are going to get the traffic through on the homepage. Those are often the things that then become, more priority and more important as well to cover throughout the day. And so it does often have to come down to, is it a good story, or is it a good story that's going to do well for us to get us good numbers so we can reach that target that we're trying to get at the end of the day that then goes on to pay the bills. So it does become a bit of a challenge in that respect, I think, now more than ever when you've got less resource. And it is about sometimes just being able to make sure that everything is financially viable.